afternoon, everybody. My name is Keith Murray. I'm going to be working with you this afternoon doing the treasurer's training for our incoming officers. One of the things to mention is that I have been a Lion since 1983. Currently, I'm a member of the Irving Noonday Lions Club. I've been in this district since 2006. As a banking career, I've been in many clubs and districts over the time. I was your district governor during 2018-19. I'm a past president of my Lions Club, and I've been treasurer of the club for 4 years now. I'm also 2 times as a past district treasurer, so hopefully I know a little bit about this topic so we can talk today. You've been told earlier by Christy about the muting and the using the video, etc., and participating. Since there's just a few of us in this session, I'd encourage you to go ahead and ask your questions as they come up. So feel free to unmute and ask your questions as it comes along. We are going to be recording this, and the PowerPoint will be available afterwards. Again, muted, so whatever. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me as we go ahead. Kind of some general things about this. I've told you a little bit about my background, and we talked a little bit in the big room about where you're coming from and all. Is there anything in particular you would like to discuss during this meeting? If so, please let me know. How many of you have been the club officer before? How many are a new treasurer? It's the first time that you're into the job? I see we do have a couple that are new, and that's good, as well as some old ones that are back doing that. This is the general agenda that we're going to be using today. We're going to, and I've got slides on each one of these items, so we'll get into more detail. We're going to talk about the treasurer's duties, the different club accounts that need to be set up, some LCI legal issues, IRS reporting on the 990N or EZ, using my LCI, and we'll actually go out to the website and take a look at it, billings that you receive, providing statements for the club members, and the reports that you're required to give to the club board on that. Duties of the treasurer. These come from the LCI side of things, and I'm sure if you haven't looked at it, you should. We'll talk about the ebook a little bit later. But your job is to keep accurate records of all receipts and disbursements for the club. You should have some sort of a folder that, in addition to the checkbook, that keeps this information. With the secretary, you're supposed to do regular billings of the members. Most of our clubs in the district that have a separate treasurer, the treasurer handles the billings. But LCI talks about doing it in conjunction because in some clubs, the secretary treasurer is a combined position. You're responsible for paying the semi-annual dues invoices from District 2X1 and LCI. You will receive 2 different invoices. We'll talk about those a little bit more later. You're responsible for reporting the financial position to the board at the regular board meetings, whether they be monthly or quarterly on that. You're responsible for filing the annual IRS forms. We'll come back to that a little bit, but if your total receipts are $50,000 or less, it's a postcard form. Preparing annual budget projections. We'll talk about that budget routine and the disbursements. And again, you're supposed to pass materials on and information to your successor once your term of office is over. Looking at the club accounts, you're supposed to maintain separate accounts within your banking relationship. An administrative or operating checking account is the one where you deposit money from dues and fines and that type of thing that come from the Lions directly. That's your administrative account that's used to pay certain of your dues. The project or charity funds are funds that are raised from the public. Your fundraising activities and other things that you're doing to raise money from the public. Basically, as LCI says, money coming from the public needs to go back to the public, so we separate those amounts. LCI recommends that we have dual signatures on all checks. Some cases, because of the distance involved, it's not possible in all clubs, but reporting and transparency is necessary. It's also a requirement that you reconcile your bank account on a regular basis. You should be getting monthly statements from your bank that you can take and compare your outstanding checks and deposits against the bank statement to make sure that your running balance is the correct balance for each of the accounts that you maintain. Let's talk a little bit about some legal issues. There's a standard constitution and bylaws that Lions Club International has. There's actually a set that goes at each level. There's one for the LCI level itself. There's a multiple district constitution and bylaws. Texas is multiple district 2. There's a district bylaws, and we are District 2X1 here within the Dallas area. And then there's a standard constitution and bylaws for your club. Your club, when it was formed, adopted the standard constitution and bylaws. Over the years, you may or may not have revised this over time. Some of the revisions that are possible are adding local officer positions. For instance, in my club, we have a chaplain, and we give the chaplain a vote on the board, and that's in our revised bylaws. But one thing to keep in mind is that you cannot negate anything that is covered in the Constitution and bylaws from those entities above you. You can add to it from your local situation, but you cannot take away anything or contradict anything that's being passed down to you. Annual IRS filings. If you look down below, you'll see in the next to last bullet, the 501c4 versus 501c3. As Lions Clubs, we are fraternal organizations, part of 501c4. These are codes within the Internal Revenue Service Code. And a 501c4 means that we are exempt from state sales tax, but contributions to us are not deductible on an individual's tax return as a contribution. Those contributions need to be made to a 501c3. If your club has a foundation, gone through the extra work to do that, you may have a 501c3 and can receive public donations through that. If not, District 2X1 set up District 2X1 Charities, which is a 501c3, and can facilitate that. If you have that need, contact one of the members of the district governor's team to find out the actual process for doing that. The annual IRS filing, you are part of the Lions Club International Group Code 20239, and this is indicated on the form that you file. Again, as I said earlier, if your total receipts are $50,000 and less, you can file a postcard return. You go to irs.gov and it walks you through that process. If your amounts are greater than that, then you have to file a 990, probably a 990 EZ, and if so, you need to work through that, or you can contact several of our past district governors who are CPAs that can help you with that filing if need be on that. The filing is due November 15th because we're on a fiscal year ending June 30, and it's due a couple of months after the end of the filing year. You can file for an extension if need be. Use of the LCI name and logo. As a Lions Club duly chartered, as a Lions Club member duly initiated and dues paying in good standing, you have the authority to use the LCI name and logo personally, and your club can use it in its information that it puts out. One thing I caution you on that is that if you're buying certain items, such as coffee mugs or giveaways that have the Lions logo on it, the vendor that is selling those to you should be authorized by LCI to do that. If for some reason they're not, they're subject to fines and penalties and lawsuits for not doing it. So it's one thing to check on if you're ordering certain materials to make sure that that individual is an authorized vendor for Lions Club International. The blanket bond is requested that each individual has. Many years in the past, we had blanket bonds at the state and LCI level, but unfortunately they were abused by some clubs. So now it's up to each individual club to get their own blanket bond. Normally the blanket bond runs from $100 to $200 as cost. And if you have an insurance agent within your club or you are aware of one, they can normally get that through their contacts. I know our club has used Continental North America for quite some time through one of our past history governors, Skip Johnson, on that. So it is available, and you need to get it. What it does is it protects you and the board members from misappropriation of funds on that. And unfortunately, we've had some instances where it has come into play. Club suspension. If you do not pay your dues to LCI and or the district, you are subject to being suspended. Once you are suspended, you lose the right to vote and participate. You can reinstate by paying up the amounts and requesting reinstatement. If you're suspended a couple of times, you cannot reinstate. So again, it's something to avoid. Primarily, you can avoid it. Very few clubs go into suspension, and it's because they don't pay their dues. Again, you're billed for the dues on a semi-annual basis based on your census at LCI on June 30 and December 31. So if you are carrying members that are not active, you're going to be billed for them, and you must pay that or be subject to suspension. Local regulations. There are not a whole lot of those, but again, it's something you need to be familiar with within your community because there may be some regulations. I think what we have found here in the Dallas area that most of our communities have prohibited the white cane solicitation on street corners unless you apply for a permit. And usually the cost of that permit is going to be the bulk of or exceed the amount that you're going to collect on the street corner. So most clubs have suspended that. Another one to be aware of is a state regulation having to do with gaming or raffles. You need to make sure that you are only doing one raffle a year. And if you do more than that, you have to go through some hoops to get permission to do it. So that's something to keep in mind as your club is looking at fundraising activities on that. The final point on this legal issue has to do with sales tax exemption. As a 501c4, you are exempt from the Texas sales tax. You're not exempt from the hotel and motel tax. So when you're having your district meetings or installation banquets and that type of thing, there's a form that you can get on the Texas State Controller's website to file for sales tax exemption. You don't need an exemption number. Basically, it's just filing that information on that. You have your own employer identification number that you can use if need be. But again, you should file that. If you have it on file with your office supply firm, normally they'll take and put it into their system so that whenever you buy materials, you'll be exempt from sales tax. But it's not much, but it helps saves a little bit, here and there as it goes along. Any questions on any of that? Thank you. If you are a new treasurer, you will not have access to LCI until July 1. And then you'll get the information on creating a password. You'll get your monthly statements from LCI in this manner. You can get member lists and rosters. Let me show you what I see as treasurer. Just a minute, let me flip over on the sharing here and I'll show you that information. Oops. Okay, the way to get into that site is to click here. First off, Lions Club International is lionsclub.org and going out to that website. Once you're there, member login allows you to go to a general login. And here is where normally it's your email and a password that's been assigned that you go into and you sign in. Once you sign in this manner, you have access to my LCI, which is where you'll do your payments and reporting of members. My Lion, which your secretary will use for activities, allows you to do shopping. And again, on shopping is one thing there. You as treasurer, the president of the club, and the secretary are the only ones that are authorized to charge items to your club account at LCI. So you can order awards and memorabilia through LCI, have it charged to the club, come through on your regular statement, and pay it with club funds, or can get reimbursed in that manner. But LCI knows automatically that we're exempt from sales tax. And then this final one, Insights, gets you into further information on LCI. We'll go into the Resource Center a little bit later. Going into my LCI, once you go into this, you may or may not have multiple titles. In my particular case, I'm club treasurer, I'm also the LCIF coordinator, so I have the multiple deals there. Select the one that you need and go into that. This is what you will see as your home screen. In the upper left-hand corner, my tasks. And again here, you have the ability of going into the calendar and setting up reminders for yourself to do your board reports, to do your IRS filing, and those type of things. I use my Outlook calendar for reminders to myself, so I do not use LCI to do that. The lower left-hand corner tells you where you stand as far as the membership reporting. You can see the check marks that are in there on that side of things. This is where your secretary will have gone in and checked off that. So if you're into a month of the year that doesn't have a check mark and your secretary hasn't done it, a follow-up is in order. It is possible for them to check that the first day of the month that they have filed the report for the month. They still have the ability to make changes and updates during the month, and it will be okay. But at least they have done the reporting on that. Again, your secretary and your president are the only ones that can update member addresses, emails, and member information. You can see it, I'll show you that in a minute, but you can't change it on that. Likewise, in the upper center portion here is the information on your club meeting and your club website. Again, your secretary is the one who can update that information, so if it isn't correct, you need to have that have them corrected. The bottom center, my service activities, again, used to be out here, but now you have to go to My Lion to get that information. The right-hand side has information on you, and below that, information on the officers for the district. Again, your secretary updates that information. The information on LCI database is in there one time under your membership of the club. And when you're designated as an officer in whatever level of Lionism you might be an officer of, your member number, which you can see up here at the top, is what is entered, and it pulls in the information from my LCI. So therefore, you can see the importance of having the corrected information on my LCI. Over here under My Lions Clubs, you come down and you see various things that you have the ability to look at. When you click on members, it goes in and gives you the listing of all of your members of the club in alphabetical order, and it shows the information concerning that, and you can look at the history. Now, your secretary has an additional button over here on the right that says Edit Member, and they can then make changes to that. Again, you do not have that ability, so you can't do that. But here's where you have the ability to take a look at all of your members. Looking further at it there, you can click this on Club Information. And if you haven't written down or don't remember your employer, your federal identification number, here it is right here in that situation on that. And this is the information about your club. And again here, this is information that can be updated by your secretary on that. Looking a little bit further, statements and dues. This is where you will get your information concerning what your billing is from ILCI. Right here, you have the ability of opting out of paper statements. If you stay in for paper statements, they will mail you one every month. If you opt out of paper statements, they will send you an email the first day or two of the month telling you that your bill is ready. You can then log in here and you see down below that you have copies of your bill that you can take and view or print. You notice here in the June numbers is a semi-annual membership dues invoice on that. This is something that I suggest that you print out, maintain for yourself, and maybe give a copy to your president and or secretary. But list all of your members, and it shows who's being billed as a family member, who's being billed as head of household, so that you have that information. And at the bottom, it has the total amount that you're being billed for. So you have that information available to you on that. One thing that I suggest is you come down through here. If you look back down here under the June 20th, you see that the amount shows that the payments that were made where our club paid the dues before. It comes down to a zero balance. I suggest that you go ahead and print out a copy of that and file it with your papers, because that gives you additional evidence that you paid that bill, so that you have that final amount involved in there. So at any rate, that's the routine. You'll have some other times as you add members during the year, LCI will prorate the dues for the balance of that 6-month period. They will also charge you with the membership initiation fee. So those will come in, and you can see there are different amounts that are shown on different months here that come into play. Again, your responsibility is to go out and get that information and come in and make the payment for it. So you should be aware as new members are added, so that you can anticipate that coming in on your next billing. You have some additional information available through reports. You can see here that there is a variety of different reports that are available. These are reports that are pulled from the LCI database. When you click on one of them, it tells you that comes over here to the report name, and you have the ability to download it into an Excel spreadsheet or just take a look at it and see on this. This particular one here is a membership report. Takes a minute or so to load it. Again, it's pulling information from the database. Part of the time that it takes to load will depend on how many members you have overall. Seems to be taking a little bit longer today. I'll come back to it. So you have this different types of reports that are available. Another thing that you have is data download. In the data download, you have the ability, let me get back up here. Oh, okay, here we go. This is where it's getting it has pulled in the membership report, earlier on that, and has that information on when they've joined and who they're tied into, et cetera, on the membership data. Okay, here's the data download. We'll talk in a little bit about sending out dues billings to your members. One way of doing that, you notice down here, you've got the ability to download the email as well as the names and numbers, et cetera. All of these different things that you can check to get in your data download. It comes down to you as a CSV file, which you can then import into a spreadsheet. Whether you use Excel or Google or another one, you can import that into a spreadsheet at that particular time. But this gives you the ability to have all of those email addresses in one place, so you don't have to go through the roster and write down each individual one on that. So you have that ability through data download. Only officers of the club have the ability to do the data download. So you may have somebody in your club that may have a need or a desire to have that type of information, but they're not able to get it themselves. They have to come through you. Membership cards. When you get a new member, it's possible to go ahead and generate a membership card for them. You can see here where it's talking about letter size paper. These are your standard forms that you can get at an office supply house or an Avery form, that type of thing, to where you can get that. This A4 size paper is used more in the European side of things than it is in our side of it. So you have that ability of printing out membership cards. Again, you can select you can select all members, or you can select an individual member that you want to select on that. And so you can print one card, multiple cards, whatever it might be. But again, something to coordinate with your secretary as far as giving out the membership ID cards to the people on that. But that pretty much covers the things that you have available to you through my LCI. One other thing I want to talk about is over here under support. Let me get back to the home page. Thinking back. This support thing here, you notice it's a little bit different than what it was on that other page. You may or may not have seen that, but the support drop down changes based on which one of the pages you are using on my LCI. But you see in here membership reports, membership application data, etc. In the membership reports, you have the ability of going out and selecting reports worldwide. So you have the ability of seeing what the total members are in your district, in any district in North America, any district around the world. And then you can also have details for within any district, namely yours, that shows a breakdown on each of the clubs as to how many family members, student members, regular members, et cetera, it has. So there's a lot of information there that normally you don't need, but again, I wanted to show it to you that you have it available. Another thing on here is a membership application form. Unfortunately, the search engine in my LCI is not as good as it used to be. You can't just search for an application form like you used to be able to. This is one way of getting the membership application form to where you can get the copy of it. You can print it out. If you, black and white is fine. If you have a color printer, it looks nicer, but you have the ability of doing it. It's a 2-page form. It needs to be duplex, but this is where you can get the member application so that you have copies of it available for yourself and for your members on that. So that's kind of where we are overall on my LCI on that. Now, in the training area, well, let me go another route to get to this. Back to the main web page. Under resources, you notice under resources, there's, for members, there's a lot of different things that you can get into there. And this gives you information about LCI. You have the ability under resources to get to searching. You get into Resource Center and you have the ability to search for different things. If I just type in treasurer and click on search, it gives me 14 different resources that I can look at here that are directly related to my job as treasurer. Best practice for financial transparency. This is one of the LCI forums that's available to you. It talks about, as we've talked today, about why the need for the different accounts is there and how you should maintain the different accounts. So that information is there as to what LCI's philosophy is on doing that. I will have a copy of that form out on the website for you to pull in later on. Also, we have the training information for the club, but primarily we have the Where's the ebook? Here we go. The Club Treasurer's ebook is located right here on the second line. This is one thing that, again, I would recommend that you do. I'll recap that at the tail end of our session. But this goes in, you can see it has 14 pages, but it talks about all of these things that we're covering here within our session into sometimes a little bit more detail on what your duties of treasurer and what the things to do, in that area, are. So those are your abilities for club treasurer on that. One thing that is there is the various types of membership. And again, here, this form is going to be available out on the website, but this talks about the different types of membership types: the regular member, the family member, student member. Again, here, as long as they're up through age 30 on that. Leo member, a former Leo member. Now, there is a form to use to bring someone from your Leo club into your regular Lions club, which waives their initiation fee, so they don't have to pay an entrance fees on coming over on that. So you have active member, affiliate member. Associate member, again, is somebody who is an active membership in one's Lions club and an associate member in a second club in the community or whatever. We run into that. You've got a couple different situations that occur. Within our district, we have several past district governors that are associate members of other clubs, helping those clubs rebuild and grow. In another one that I've talked about, you've heard the phrase snowbird. Well, in Florida and Arizona, the clubs there have people that belong to clubs back home, up north somewhere in the cold country, and they come down to spend the winter time in the south, and they could affiliate with a local Lions club while they're in the south. Well, they're an associate member of the club in, say, Arizona or Florida or South Texas, whatever it might be. So that's another example of an associate membership. They pay whatever dues the local club assesses, but they are billed by LCI through their home club. Honorary, life members, member at large, etc. There's a chart in here that talks about who pays what as far as whether LCI is billed or the district billed and international. So that's another piece of information that you have available to you on that. So that's the resource center. Let me get out of that one, and I want to get back into another thing here. Let me get back to okay.
Hey, Keith, I have a quick question about membership. If you have a family member, they pay less LCI dues, but not district dues. Is that correct? There's a discount?
No. A family member gets a discount on the LCI dues, but does not get a discount on the district dues.
Okay.
The student member gets discount on district dues.
Okay.
But a family member does not. And it's up to each individual club as to whether they want to discount the family members' dues based on the LCI discount, but they do have to pay the full amount for state dues and Lions Camp.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you will get 2 billings during the year. You will get the billings in July and January during your year from the 2 different sources. I showed you where the LCI billing is located. Unfortunately, the district billing is not available online. So the district treasurer will send out the bills. With our current environment, the bills have not been sent out yet, but they should come by the end of the month on that. LCI gives you the roster of members, and we've shown that information to you and discounts family or student on that. Again, both situations are paying half dues. The student does not pay an initiation fee. Another thing too to keep in mind, The initiation fee of $35 to LCI is charged for every member. However, if you're bringing in a member who is a veteran of the United States military and has their DD 214, you can fill out a special form and submit that. And currently there's a waiver of that amount. Once the form is submitted and accepted by LCI, they will credit your account. So you'll be charged, then you'll be credited for that $35 initiation fee. But it's something to keep in mind, and it comes and goes. The program is currently in effect. It has been for a couple of years. They dropped it for a while, but it's back again. It's in, I believe it's in for the current year, but again, it's something to double check as whether it's currently active or not. Again, the district treasurer will invoice you for district, state, and Lions Camp dues. You have 3 different things that you're billed for on that. Your district directory has that information, in it. Your district directory will be available probably at the October cabinet meeting, since we're having a virtual cabinet meeting this coming on July 25th for the first cabinet meeting due to our current restrictions. But at any rate, the district directory will be available online. It's available out there shortly, if it's not there currently. Currently you have the one from last year, and the amount of the dues have not changed. But on page 51 in the directory, you have the breakdown. LCI dues are $21.50 semi-annually, or $43 a year. Your district dues, you have the administrative fund of $9 a year, convention fund $1.30 a year, hospitality fund $1.60 a year, the state convention fund $1 a year. Currently, you will get a credit on your invoice for the state convention fund. The state convention is held within our district every 16 years. One of the things that's unique about Texas to the other states and other multiple districts, we have 16 districts within Texas because of the size of the state, of course. There is a council of governors where all 16 elected district governors meet together 4 times a year. There is a council chairman. The council chairman rotates amongst the different districts in a schedule that is covered in the multiple district constitution. Last year, we had the council chair. The year before last, we had the council chair in 2018, 2019. John Landrum from Waxahachie, past district governor, was selected by our past district governor association to be the council chair. The council chair selects where the convention is going to be. Our state convention was in Waxahachie a year and a half ago, and we had a good state convention. We actually ended up returning some money after the convention into the district. So we have a reserve fund in the district of over $50,000, and therefore we're not doing the current assessment. It's up to each year, each governor, as to whether they're going to make that assessment or not. But currently it's being credited back or waived, if you will, on that. You will have also from the multiple district, there's an administrative fund, which is $7 a year, a Promote Texas fund, which is 50 cents a year. The Promote Texas fund builds up over time and is used only when we have a candidate for an international office, whether that be international director or someone running for 3rd vice president, such as Jimmy Ross did a few years ago, and then worked up the ladder to become international president. Currently, we have a candidate for international director. TJ Tiarina, past council chair out of San Antonio, is the designated candidate for the state of Texas for international director. There are there's a 36-member international board of directors. In North America, we had 18 of those directors up until about 6 or 7 years ago. Since the membership in North America is declining, we're down to 11 elected members from the United States at the present time. So it's not an assurance that CJ will be elected, but he was due to be on the ballot in Singapore, which was canceled. He is also, we hope that he's going to be on the ballot in Montreal. Again, as we know, theoretically there's no politics in Lions, but it's still a blessing of the international board before someone gets on the ballot to be elected as international director on that. So we're hopeful that TJ will make it in Montreal. Hopefully we'll have people in Montreal. You have votes at the district convention and votes at the international convention based on your club membership. You also have the Texas Lion Camp dues. Texas Lions Camp dues are $21 a year per member, and they're billed by the district for each semi-annual period. The Lions Camp dues, since the Lions Camp is a 501c3, it can be paid out of your project or activity or charity account, depending on what you call it. The others are out of your administrative account because they're dues for being a member of Lionism. The district director shows that breakdown and has that information available on that. But you will have the breakdown on your invoice coming from the district showing that. Mentioned earlier about who can charge on LCI. Statements and reports. Your job is to bill each member for their dues. This amount should cover the amounts you are billed, the club administrative expenses, such as postage, post office box, other things that you might do. Some clubs also pay for the members to go to the midwinter conference where there's a meal for 10 bucks, 10 or 15, and then also pay for the Texas Lions Forum in Austin each year. I'm going to talk about the different meetings shortly here. But those are some of the things that are club administrative expenses. You should also allow for some non-payment by delinquent members. Again, as I mentioned earlier, LCI and the district are going to bill you based on your census. That doesn't mean they're going to bill you based on who you collected from, but they're going to bill you based on who's listed with your LCI dues. So also doesn't hurt to build up a reserve for the future so that if you have a situation like our current environment where some clubs are not meeting, you may have trouble collecting your dues. So you have a reserve for that. You should bill annually, quarterly, or monthly as your club tradition calls for, no less than annually. You should send a paper or an email statement to everybody. Now, in some situations, you may send out a blanket email or put something in your newsletter that says, dues are now due, everybody send their money in. Well, that works for most members, and you get the checks from those people, and that's fine. The ones you don't get paid by, you need to send them a follow-up email or statement so that they have something specific that says, hey, Bill, you owe us 30 bucks or 50 bucks or whatever the number might be for your dues. Because that way the member cannot come back later and say, well, they never told me how much they owed. I didn't realize I had to pay, or whatever excuse they might use. So at any rate, it's your job to do that on sending them out for that. Monthly reports for the board will show how the receipts and disbursements for each account and may or may not give a year-to-date. Let me switch over here and show you a format that I have used for several years to report to my club on the information. Sorry, I didn't have this one keyed up earlier. Okay. Okay. This is the format that I've used. You have the tabs across the bottom of the spreadsheet for administrative and the other charitable account. We call it a charity account, but you may call it activities or project or fundraising, or doesn't matter as long as it's the money from the public. Within this, you may have different line items that you're going to utilize. This particular spreadsheet will not be out on the website, but I'm more than willing to send it to anybody that is in this session who would like a copy of it. The receipts will be whatever you have from your side of things, from your member dues, your tail twister contributions, whatever comes in, and whatever you charge your members for on reimbursement. And then expenses, advertising. If you put something in your local newspaper recruiting members, or if you do an advertisement in the district directory or the state, the convention directory, any charges that you have on that. Dues and subscriptions. Here's where you're going to pay your district and your LCI dues and that. Bonding, insurance, other expenses, postage and delivery, supplies. And then you get down into your meeting expenses and other things. Again, it depends on what your club does in doing it. But the main thing that I wanted to point out here is that you can see that what I'm reflecting on this is a year's worth of information that the people can go back if they get any questions in the in the board meeting about when something was paid or how much was paid or what it should be. I can refer them back to that particular date, and the information is right here. On the charity account, things are a little bit different. And again, here you have on your income that you're going to see, you're going to have whatever you use for fundraising. So again, these are going to vary based on what your club does, but you're going to show the information as to what you got in on each particular one as it comes along. Again, expenses, you'll have the information there as to what you're doing on it. The highlights that I have out here were tied in with reporting that I was going to do to a particular member. But here's where we're talking about budget. I mentioned earlier that you needed to have a budget on things. You notice up in the columns that what I give my club is the actual amount that we spent year to date last year, the budget for the current year, which they have already approved. I have another spreadsheet where I give them the budget in the July timeframe to approve the budget for the year. I mentioned earlier that you need to have approval of all of the disbursements that you make for your Lions Club. If you have the budgeted items that are mentioned in the budget, you can go ahead and make those disbursements without prior approval and then just report them at the next report to the club that you've done it. However, if you have something that is not budgeted, you have to get particular approval from the board or the membership to pay that particular amount. Down here under expenses, you have again here, these are going to change based on what you're doing within your club as to who you're making the checks payable to and where they're going on that. So, monthly report to the board. You notice over here, down in this last line item, it has the bank account balance. This is the minimum amount that you have to do in your monthly or periodic report to your board of directors. Is your balance that you showed on the prior report, the activity for the current time period, and the balance that you have at the end of the current reporting period. So whether you're reporting monthly or quarterly, you have that that information, and that's the amount that you need to do. Now, the year-to-date amounts and the budgeted amounts, et cetera, those aren't required to give on a regular basis. I do it so that it's there. Again, this full disclosure. Your members have the right to know everything that goes on in your club and what all is happening with the money. So it's worth sharing it with them on that. Okay. Get back over here. The accounting software that you use is up to the clubs. I recommend that you use at least a spreadsheet such as Excel to track your information. There are several accounting packages that are available. I use QuickBooks. If you happen to have a foundation within your club, QuickBooks through an outfit called TechSoup.com, it's very inexpensive. But once you have purchased software, it can be passed on from treasurer to treasurer as it goes on that. So again, I recommend that you use some sort of software to do the tracking as opposed to a manual ledger on doing it. There are various regular meetings that are held by Lions, and you should attend as many of them as possible so that you can become familiar with what's happening within the district. There are zone meetings. Our district is broken down into 8 to 10 zones, depending on what the governor dictates and has recruited as zone chairman. So your club is part of a zone on that. And there are supposed to be at least 3, possibly 4 zone meetings a year that are being held, and you should attend those. Cabinet meetings. These are meetings of the district governor's team and the approximately 20 some odd people in the district that are chairmen of the various activities within the district. They meet 4 times a year. There's one meeting normally held in July. Our meeting is going to be on July 25th. It's going to be a Zoom meeting because of the COVID restrictions. But normally there'll be the first meeting that a governor has, and the directors are handed out, and everybody is reintroduced because there are new officers coming involved. The second meeting is held sometime in October on that, and the announcement will come out on it. Then there's a midwinter conference that's normally held in January. And again, that'll be hosted by a particular club, normally held in a church or meeting environment. Then there's another meeting that's held in March of each year. And then the wrap-up meeting is the district convention that's normally held in April of each year. The Texas Lions Forum is a learning experience that is held on a Saturday and Sunday. It starts at noon on Saturday and goes until noon on Sunday. There's a total of 6 different sessions that an individual can attend. The cost is a $75 amount. If you are a first timer and are one of the first 100 registrants, then your room is paid for. Otherwise, there's a cost of about $127 for a room and the transportation of getting down and back. But it's possible, particularly from the Dallas area, to drive down Saturday morning and drive back on Sunday afternoon. But it's an excellent opportunity to meet other Lions and to learn about different things in Lionism. The Council of Governors meetings is held again 4 times a year. The first one is normally held the first weekend in August. It has been canceled this year due to the COVID situation. We don't know yet whether it'll be a Zoom meeting or what they're going to have in lieu of it. But there's normally a council meeting that's held in November that is hosted by one of the district governors around the state. My understanding that this year's meeting in November will be in Arlington. So it'll be an opportunity for those of us here in the Dallas area to be close by to go to a meeting. Then the next meeting is held the first weekend in February, again back in Kerrville. The reason these are held in Kerrville, the August and the February meetings, is that the Council of Governors meets on Friday, and then on Saturday, the Lions Camp has their regular meetings. And the Lions Camp is located there in Kerrville. And then the last Council of Governors meeting will be at the state convention. And again, the state convention is the one that's held by at the district for the district chairman. Last year's convention was in Longview, Texas. Nancy Van Alstyne from District X2 was the council chair. This year's council chair is Ray Harper, who is out of X3. I understand the convention is going to be in Waco. And then the following year, Scott Harper is the convention chair. Is the council chair, and his convention will probably be in Abilene. And after that, it will be Susie Snyder, who is the council chair elect We do things a little bit differently in Texas in that each of these council chair gets 3 years to work with their group of governors from when they're first elected to second vice governor. And we just elected Fred Conger as our second vice district governor. He's going to be a member, is now, since today happens to be after July 1. He's a member of Susie Snyder's council, which will be the district governors 3 years from now on that. But that district convention will be somewhere in the Fort Worth area. I don't believe she's designated where yet. So at any rate, those are coming up as far as the last one on that. The USA-Canada Alliance Leadership Forum is held in September of each year. Again, this year it was canceled because of the COVID-19 situation. It was going to be in Louisville, Kentucky. Next year it'll be in Des Moines, Iowa. It's normally the third weekend in September, and the information will be available for that. Again, it is over a 3.5 day routine. You have the opportunity of attending a total of 10 different sessions that are put on by people from LCI and past governors, past council chairs, etc. A lot of people that are experts in their field. The final one is the Lions Club International Convention that is held each year, normally around the July 4th weekend. Again, slightly before or after, depending on the availability of hotels in the coast city. Those are announced ahead of time. It will be in Montreal next year, Boston the year after, New Delhi the year after that. So those are coming down the road. But at the Lions Club International Convention, there's normally somewhere between 15 and 20,000 Lions from around the world. So you have the opportunity to meet people and hear about things, and it's where the new district governors are sworn in, and the new international president is also sworn in, and the other international officers move up the ladder. There is a vote for the incoming third international vice president. So those are the things at the meetings that are available. Finally, LCI has ebooks for each officer. I touched briefly on the ebook for the treasurer in the earlier session on that, but there are ebooks for each of the other officer positions, and I encourage you to take a look at those so that you know what your compadres and your fellow Lions are doing, or you may have a desire to move into one of those other offices yourself as it goes down the road. Any questions that you have? Go ahead and answer any questions to this point. I've added my email address at the bottom there so that if you have any questions later down the road, or if there's anything I can do to help you in your job as treasurer, please feel free to drop me an email and we'll go from there with it. I think that sums it up for today. I appreciate your participation. If you'll hang loose, we can chat a little bit in this room, and we'll be returned to the main room in a few minutes when they reconvene for some final words from our district governor.